Do you ever rewatch a movie and realize, damn, we didn't appreciate this enough when it came out? That's Iron Man, the film that kicked off the MCU before anyone even knew what an MCU was. And it's better than you remember. Because this wasn't just some superhero origin story. It was raw, grounded, and surprisingly a mature film that stood on its own before Disney ever got its polished fingers on Marvel. This was Marvel before the mouse, before corporate synergy, before the formula, and it was amazing. Let's talk about Tony Stark because back in 2008, Robert Downey Jr. didn't just play Iron Man, he became him. And not in that method actor Jared Leto mailing dead rats kind of a way. RDJ's personal redemption arc matched that of the characters so perfectly that it felt like fate. Tony starts off as a billionaire playboy weapons dealer with no moral compass. Then he gets humbled, he gets wrecked, and that's where the real movie begins. Tony Stark is living at the top of the world, genius, inventor, head of Stark Industries, and a man whose tech fuels war zones across the globe. During a flashy weapons demo in Afghanistan, Tony gets ambushed, and he's taken hostage by a group called the Ten Rings. And in a twist of brutal irony, they're armed with his own weapons. Wounded and kept alive only by an electromagnet in his chest, Tony is forced to build missiles for them. But instead, with the help of a fellow captive Jinsen, he builds something else. The first Iron Man suit, clunky, loud, and terrifying. The thing's a tank made of scraps, but it works. And when he escapes, everything changes. Tony returns home a different man. He shuts down the weapons division of his company. This pisses off his business partner Obadiah Stane, who we slowly realize is not just a backstabber but the guy who orchestrated Tony's kidnapping in the first place. Tony refines the suit, Mark II and Mark III, sleeker, smarter, and deadlier. And through all this, he's evolving, not just his tech but his purpose. He's no longer building weapons, he is the weapon. The suit becomes his way to right his wrongs. And when Stane reveals himself as Ironmonger and steals Tony's arc reactor design, we get one of the most memorable confrontations in superhero film history, including the line, that absolutely banger of a moment that lives rent-free in every fan's head.
It's impossible. Tony Stark was able to build this in a cave with a box of scraps.
Jeff Bridges ate his role. The anger, the disbelief, the betrayal. Obadiah Stane wasn't just a mustache-twirling villain. He was personal. He was corporate greed, legacy, ego, all of it crumbling under Tony's newfound sense of responsibility. The film ends with Tony defeating Stane, but instead of slipping into a secret identity like every other hero, he does something completely different. He steps in front of a press, smirks, and says,
Truth is, I am Iron Man.
Let's talk about the visuals of this movie because Iron Man looked different. The suit was grounded, heavy, and you could hear every hydraulic hiss, every metal clank, and when Tony moved you felt the weight of his armor. It wasn't just some magical nanotech transforming midair. It was bolts and gears and real engineering. This is a film that took its CGI seriously. The reds weren't overly saturated. The lighting was realistic, the camera work was less concerned with the spectacle and more focused on telling a tactile and believable story. In later films, Tony's tech gets more advanced, nanobots, space armor, bleeding edge designs. Sure, they're cool, but they lose that grounded grit. In Iron Man, the suit had presence, it had a bite. That Mark III suit, probably still one of the best, most iconic armors in the history of MCU. Even in just one movie, we got three wildly different suits. Mark I, built in a cave with a box of scraps and literal firepower. Mark II, sleek, silver, experimental, flight issues, but hey, there are learning curves. Mark III, the classic, red and gold, battle tested and refined. Every upgrade tells a story. Not just in this movie but throughout the MCU. This is why Tony Stark is one of my favorite characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. From survival to testing to superhero, and each upgrade felt earned. And let's be real for a second, without RDJ none of this works. He wasn't a rising star, he was a comeback story. Marvel took a risk with him, and that risk turned into the most iconic casting choices in modern film. RDJ gave Tony Stark charm, wit, arrogance, vulnerability you can't look away from. It's no wonder why Disney saw this movie and said, yeah, we want that movie, not just that movie, that entire franchise. Iron Man was released before Disney's acquisition of Marvel, and that shows the film has rawness to it. It's not trying to be safe or polished. It's not worried about fitting into a 20-movie arc. It's just telling one story and it's doing it damn well. There are no winks to a multiverse, no post-credit teases that hijack the film's tone. Well, aside from the Nick Fury showing up, but that still felt kind of organic. It's just one man, one mission, and one arc. When you strip away everything the MCU became, good and bad, and you go back to Iron Man, you realize it wasn't just the beginning of something massive. It was a reminder that superhero films could have depth, grit, and identity. It was a film that didn't just launch a franchise, it launched a movement. So maybe it's time to revisit it, not just as a Marvel fan, but as a movie fan. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And as always, it's time for a goodbye.